Your Colorado Avalanche have found their next stars as we head into this season with three guys in particular that I want to talk about that absolutely will be getting NHL games and I believe could become regulars in this lineup just this season. What is up, everybody? It is Avalanche Digest. Hope you're doing well, Avs Nation. We're going to dive right into these guys. But before I do, just want to remind you guys to subscribe. We are almost to 1,000 subscribers. So close. So why don't you just help us get there? But let's actually just talk about what the articles said. So, particularly, it's a series going on about the Colorado Avalanche top 25, under 25. And they just kind of started counting down from 25. Two guys in particular from this article have already been mentioned, and there's one more by the name of Gavin Brindley that has not been mentioned yet, but will absolutely be near the top. So, starting with the first guy I want to talk about, it's Matt Stienburg. Matt Stienburg only played a few games with the Colorado Avalanche, but he was awesome when he got here. As they go on to say, the Halifax native has made a name for himself as a gritty player, and this comes from Brandon Vogue, by the way. 8 games into his call up with the Avalanche, Stienburg cost himself the rest of the season, unfortunately. He was running Tampa Bay players all game, and eventually it caught up to him. He actually got a 2-game suspension for this, which, by the way, the Avalanche actually got out of by playing him on their roster for the playoffs. So that actually counted towards that 2-game suspension. So very sneaky that the Avalanche have already taken care of that suspension. And this is a guy that, if we look at his stats and look at who he is, obviously 6'1", 183, needs to put on some more pounds, but in general, a big physical center in general. Not a high amount of offense, but you can see that at Cornell University, when fully healthy, put up like 29 points in 28 games. So there is some offense there. And the Avalanche foresee him as a bruiser center that they can send out onto the ice that runs players. And he does that incredibly well. It's going to be a lot of fun to see him just getting in fights, which he definitely needs to improve at, and overall just knocking players down. I think he's a good addition to that fourth line as just a good, gritty player who's just going to spit out his teeth and keep on fighting. The next guy on the list is actually another gritty player, and that's Zakhar Bardakov. He's also a fairly interesting player to me. They go on to say about him that he was acquired seemingly as a throw-in in a contract to make the math work on the trade that sent Curtis McDermott to New Jersey. And remember, yes, that we got this guy in the trade for Curtis McDermott, who was hyped up as this guy who could play on our fourth line and pretty much hit, but never really did at all. And in return, we got a guy that actually seems to be fairly interesting. You could see he had 35 points with, and they say 15 goals here. It's actually 17 looking at his stats. You can see here it was 17 goals and 18 assists for 35 points. Now, it's not a guy that I think will come in and be this fantastic third line player. He has the ceiling for it, but you look at who he is. He's a 6'2", almost 210-pound winger. And the best thing about him, too, is he plays center. I've also heard he's fairly good at face-offs as well, which is pretty awesome as well. That face-off acumen drew particular notice. And as a guy playing in a fourth-line center role, let's say Jack Drury is our third-line center, if he can do good face-offs and he's also known as being fairly defensively responsible, you've got a win in my books. Another thing about Zakhar Bardakov is that he's also a fairly good penalty killer. It was something the article doesn't mention. And when you're a guy who plays in the bottom six, it's tough to make a career for yourself if you don't play on the special teams. Whether you're Victor Olofsson, who's good at playing on the power play as a bit of a shoe-in, I think it should be more than that, or playing on the penalty kill more often than not. If you don't do either of those things, it's hard to find a career. And Bardakov absolutely wants to have a career in the NHL. In fact, I actually think he has a notice in his contract that if he plays in the minors, he has the right to go back to the KHL. So he's a guy that is scratching and absolutely wants a playoff spot. And with Logan O'Connor out, he's got all the opportunity in the world. I'm very interested in Zakhar Bardakov. I think they absolutely shafted him when they said he's the 11th best prospect. I think he's closer to the top. But The last guy that I really, really want to talk about today is Gavin Brindley. First of all, that's probably one of the best first names in the entire NHL. No bias here whatsoever. But looking at his actual stats, this kid is a wasp. He is an absolute soldier, as I've heard him described multiple times. Now, the thing is, if he was 3 inches taller, he'd be one of the best prospects in the NHL. But unfortunately for him, he's 5'9", and he's only 168 pounds. However, these stats are almost remarkably similar to a Brad Marchand, which I think is exactly the pie in the sky expectation for Gavin Brindley. But the more realistic expectation is he can be a great third line wing option that provides good offense. I mean, I'll give you his stats right here. You can see he was a college hockey star. And 25 goals and 28 assists in that 53-point season in just 40 games. And really, you look at that World Juniors as well, and he had 10 points in 7 games. Obviously, had a bit of a tough time in the AHL system. I've heard from Columbus fans that he didn't get a lot of good playing time and was also in a bottom 6 role on a college hockey team, which is tough when you're only playing 52 games to actually find production. And I really think Gavin Brindley will be given all the expectation and potential in the world to make that top 6 of the Colorado Eagles. And the Colorado Eagles, something that has been a little underrated, have actually got a lot better in their recent history. The Eagles have been a much better AHL team, which I wish happened earlier for some other Colorado Avalanche prospects. And I think Gavin Brindley is going to shine in our system. I'm going to be keeping an eye on him. I'm going to be updating you on him throughout the season. He's my new pet project because the Avalanche sold all my other favorite prospects. So we have a new target. And I'm excited for every single one of these guys. Gavin Brindley, Matt Stienburg, Zakhar Bardakov. I think all of them can lend a pretty sizable role in our lineup, either killing penalties, possibly on the power play as well, especially with Gavin Brindley and his great skating. It should be interesting. Maybe not first power play, probably second power play, but it's a great thing to have depth. And one of the biggest things that the Avalanche have been lacking in their entire history for this organization, I think we can all agree, is their development of prospects. Basically, the biggest problem that I noticed was you can be okay at forward. Like, look at the Florida Panthers, for example. The Panthers don't really have any natural grown forwards. Yes, you have, of course, Alex Barkov and some other guys, but a lot of their best guys are people they found and targeted in trades. Carter Verhaeghe, one of the best performers for them, is basically a Nichushkin story that we had, where it's a guy that was basically on his way out of a hockey career in North America, and they took a chance on him, and he's become one of their best forwards. Obviously, Verhaeghe had a bit of a down year last year, but so did Valerie Nichushkin, and these are the type of moves that the Avalanche have been able to make to keep themselves afloat. But you really notice the lack of good bottom 6 options, the lack of versatile players coming into our system. Also on the defense, I feel like the defense is one of the worst things that have hindered the Colorado Avalanche. There are guys out there I'm interested in. Mikhail Guliev, Sean Behrens, we will discuss on a later episode, that could really, really help the Avalanche's second pair if they had developed them earlier. I think they can still have tremendous impact on this lineup, so keep an eye out for that in the future. But that's going to do it for this episode, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one of Avalanche Digest. I will catch y'all in the next one, and have a good one.